I hope that, I think all of you have had a chance to walk our halls and peruse all of the wonderful posters that we have on display. I love seeing all these posters on display. This is early on. We're still early as a medical school, right? We are creating, we are being innovative, and I love seeing that in print. It's very exciting for me. All of you who have presented, who have posters out here, this is the first step, if you haven't already, bringing it to a national conference, a regional conference, bringing it to something else, turning it into a manuscript. This is how it all starts. So thank you for all of the things that you do to be innovative and to be thinking about ways in which you can make this the optimal learning environment for our learners, for our various learners. So one project was chosen out of, I think, close to 25 abstracts that were submitted. And so Dr. Peter Apel and his team have developed a program and studied an ultra-short video to educate healthcare providers on fingertip injury repair. This is, was an interprofessional, multidisciplinary, wonderful group of project coordinators, groups, authors, and slightly discomforting videos, but he will share those for the non-clinician but he will share those videos and talk a little bit more about their project. Dr. Peter Apel, please join us. This one?
Yeah. All right, well, thank you to Teach for inviting us to present, and hopefully everyone has fully digested their food before we get into the presentation. So for the background, so I'm a orthopedic hand surgeon. I take care of adult and pediatric hand injuries, and a fingertip injury is one of the most common injuries we see. It's typical for a finger that's been caught in a door or smashed in a door, and I would get phone calls on call from a lot of providers in our region, and this is our region for those of you that haven't seen it. It spans about 2 hours by driving on all directions, and I would get phone calls from ER doctors and mid-level providers that have this fingertip injury and they want to transfer it. The patient comes from a long ways away, and I know they have suture, I know they have needle drivers, and I know they have the skills, and I'm thinking to myself over the phone, the only thing you lack is a little confidence and a little education. And so that was the impetus for starting this project, for me to believe, I believe that the patients really need to be treated where they live and should be treated by providers who are in their region. And so that was the goal of this project. So I looked to see what videos already exist out on the internet. So these are sort of typical videos. This is a YouTube search for, I don't know how well it shows up, but this is a YouTube search for fingertip nail bed repair. And so typical videos, they're made by anybody really can make a video and put it on YouTube, and anybody can get the top hit on a YouTube video, and they range in quality. From some are quite good, and some are all wrong. And there are varying lengths, ranging from 3 minutes to 12 minutes. One of them I don't even think was done by a doctor. And so, but this is the reality of what students and residents are going for when they're trying to perform a procedure. So here was my first attempt at making a fingertip education video. And as it turns out, it looked like all the others. It's sort of this bird's eye view. You're pretty far away. It was really long. We had subtitles underneath. We made diagrams and incorporated them in. No one watched it. No one watched it. I didn't have good access to it. People who did watch it didn't really understand the steps, because as you can see here, if you just look at it from a video critique standpoint, the actual part you care about is about that big. In this huge video, the part you care about is actually really small, and it was kind of hard to actually follow the action. So that was a failure. So we tried making other videos. This is an actual intra-op video. The problem is I'm trying to talk and take care of the patient at the same time, and you can see, the light is washing in and out. And because I'm trying to take care of this patient while we're making the video, it ended up really not being that good of quality, had to interpose still pictures in it, and it didn't really show all the key steps. So I tried using this video. I would send it to the residents, and they didn't really follow. Can you come down and show me anyway, Dr. Apel? So I said, why am I failing? What is it that I'm failing to do and failing to communicate? And so what I learned from my students, I started to spend more time with these youngsters, with the millennials. So this is a YouTube video clip, and I don't know if you guys have seen this. There's a little gear in the bottom. You can watch YouTube videos on 2x speed. How many in the room actually knew that? Oh, I guess I was wrong. But this is what they're doing. They're watching a video on 2x speed because I can't be bothered with a 12-minute video. And so that's what they're doing. So I said, you know, what we really need to do, we need to really boil this down, and we need to give them a driver's seat view, because that's what they're watching. When they watch someone bike or skiing, that's what they really want to view. So we got this camera, which would actually take high enough quality pictures of the action that we could then teach the key steps. So that was part number one. And part number two was we had to boil down this video to an attention span that the learners would follow. So how we did it was, and then we wanted to study it. So we didn't want this just to be our garage project and turn it into a religion. We wanted this to be science. So we decided to say, let's take a step back, let's use all of our scientific tools and say, what's the research question? And the research question is, what are the best ways to use videos to teach medical procedures? So specifically here, we wanted to look at video length. And so the hypothesis was that an ultra-short video would be superior to a standard length video for educational training for emergency medicine residents. So a very specific and testable hypothesis. Just like we teach our students, you have to have a testable hypothesis. We did the same thing with this study. So the method, so the first thing is we needed a standardized fingertip model. So I couldn't round up 60 patients with fingertip injuries, so we had to make them. So we worked with Dr. McNamara, who wasn't here, he had to go, to make our fingertip injury device. So this is Hugh Hagan, my senior partner, who has a workshop in his basement and was terrific with making these. And so we made a standardized fingertip injury device using cadaveric fingers. It's a heavy piece of wood, it's metal coated, the cadaver finger is secured in, and
oh yeah.
So with some adjustment, it actually worked pretty well. So we validated it. We did about 25 fingers. We were pretty consistent with getting this injury that mimics just what we see when a finger's caught in a car door, where you get a fracture here of the distal phalanx. That fingernail is pulled out from underneath the nail fold, which is again what we see clinically, and it's sitting on top, and this looks just like the one I showed at the beginning of the presentation. And so this was novel. I don't know if it's particularly publishable, but at least it's novel. It was ad hoc for us because it served our purposes. So next we wanted to see, how can we make a short video? We got to make this thing short. It needs to be short, it needs to be the driver's seat view, just like everything else they see. It needs to contain all the same information, but let's use different tools. We're going to use verbal, visual, implied, and assumed. And I'll explain what I mean by each of those. So the verbal's the narration of the video is the video itself. Implied are things like they already know to get gauze. They know they're going to need suture. They know how to suture. I don't need to cover those steps. So what's one of the ways that we made this video shorter was we eliminated things that the students already knew. So I looked at some of these videos on YouTube, and they all start out by showing you everything that you're going to need and gather together. And I thought, you know, if I'm telling them that they're going to use it, then they know they're going to need it. So that's one way I can cut the video down, is eliminate those steps. The other things is I'm going to eliminate steps that they've already mastered. So most of our trainees, they know how to do this right here. This is a simple instrument tie. It's taught to our third-year medical students. All of the interns know how to do it. So when we made this video, we said, I don't need to show every stitch going down, because they know all those already. And then lastly, we set up the video and talked faster. So here it is in 60 seconds.
60 seconds. To begin, first apply the finger tourniquet. If you don't have one, a pen nose draining clamp is acceptable. Next, remove the nail. Bluntly spread underneath the nail with the scissors, then grab the nail with the clamp and remove it. Poke open the fingertip injury and copiously irrigate. Use nylon or Prolene to then repair the lateral nail folds. In children, use absorbable suture. Repair any lacerations to the volar pulp as well. Next, turn your attention to the nail bed injury. Use chromic or other absorbable suture for this repair. Remove the finger tourniquet. Bleeding will stop on its own. Apply bacitracin over the nail bed. Cut a piece of Adaptic and place it over the nail bed and tuck it up underneath the appendicular fold. Gauze is then used to create a dressing. Additional Adaptic can be placed volarly over the lacerations. Cotton roll is used to create a bulky, soft dressing. Coban may be
applied. Be careful not to make it too tight. I don't know how the last part got cut off. So the experimental study. So Dr. Keel and I worked together from the beginning of this project. Who's here? Thank you very much, by the way, for being here. From the beginning of the project, from the implementation to the creation to the study design, and then most critically to the execution. So we had 18 emergency medicine interns who participated in the study. And how we set up the study, each subject was given a pre-prepared questionnaire. What is your level of confidence doing these procedures? What is your level of training? Do you consider yourself an expert in any of these areas? And they're presented with a scenario. And the scenario was intended to mimic a real emergency room scenario. We said you have 30 minutes. We'll give you the prompt. You're going to go in and see the scenario. You're going to come back in the exam room. We'll give you time to educate yourself. Then you have to go back in and take care of the scenario. And you have 30 minutes for the whole thing. Because that's the real pressure of being in the emergency department. You don't have 2 hours to look it up. You need to see the problem, educate yourself, and go take care of the problem. This is the just-in-time training model, which has been borrowed from inventory management that's used elsewhere. So that's the idea. So we split them up, 7 in the ultra-short group, 6 in the educational video group, and 5 in the no education group. Our primary outcome was a fingertip repair score. So this was a simple 3-point score. There were 8 steps. They got 2 points for doing it correctly, 1 point for doing it incorrectly, and 0 if the step wasn't completed at all. So my partners and I and Dr. Keel decided that these were the most critical elements to perform, and they were included in the short video and in the long video. But these were the critical elements. Secondary outcomes, we timed the subjects, both the time spent watching the video to learn something about behavior, as well as time spent on the repair. We then asked them afterwards their confidence levels and their general feeling of preparedness. Because, as I have argued, it's the confidence and feeling of preparedness that are the barriers to implementation in the field. That's what these providers who are unfamiliar need to build before they'll take this on after just an educational video. We used a one-way ANOVA with 2 key post-hoc tests. So here are our results. So for our primary outcome measure, this is the fingertip repair score. So the bar on the left is the no education group. The average score was 4. And for both the video groups, the score was over 9, 9.6 and 9.1. And these were statistically significant compared to the no education group. So great, we gave them education, they did better. So not particularly novel, but good that we were successful in educating them. So here's where it started to get interesting. So the time spent on the repair. So this is the whole exercise that they spent. So for the no education group, they performed the whole exercise in an average of 19 minutes. The standard video education group did the whole exercise in an average of 20 minutes. It took almost the entire allotted time. But the ultra-short video group was right back down with the no education group, was not different than the baseline with how long they took for the entire exercise. So we asked ourselves, well, is that because they spent longer watching the video? So as it turns out, in the standard video group, the average time they spent watching it was 6 minutes. Funny, because it was an 8-minute video. So they either weren't watching the whole thing or skipping the parts anywhere, or were just watching it on 2.x speed. And for the ultra-short video group, the average time spent watching it was 2 minutes. Interesting, because that was twice as long as the video. So this was surprising to us. We didn't expect to find that as far as the behavior of the interns as they were preparing for this. Interestingly, the time spent on the repair, the actual time spent suturing, doing the dressing, was the same across groups. There were no differences. The post-repair confidence levels were the lowest in the no education group and higher in the standard group, but even higher in the ultra-short video group. Now, this did not meet statistical significance, but we did find it interesting to see the differences. So our interpretation of this is that by showing a short video, we imply something. We telegraph, this is an easy skill. You can do this. It only takes 60 seconds to learn it. And we think that that's reflected in the post-repair confidence, that they believe they can do it because they learned it in such a short period of time. Lastly, the post-repair feeling of preparedness was significantly higher in both of the video groups compared to the no education group. So for us, our conclusion is that a 60-second, just-in-time educational video successfully conferred procedural expertise and confidence to subjects previously unfamiliar with fingertip repair. So the next direction that we plan to take for this study is to use these same techniques to train some of our orthopedic interns. I'm an orthopedic surgeon, so within my department there are certain skills that I teach over and over and over and over again for my trainees that many of them, once they've graduated, ask me for again. Hey, Dr. Apel, how did you do that pediatric elbow pinning? And I tell them the same steps over and over and over again. But the idea is to create something that they can reference anytime when they need it that reminds them of the steps that they already knew. Our next is to make these available for all. At this time, we still have, we haven't released these for any of the residents to use. So our plan is to do that. And then lastly is to test this just-in-time concept with actual clinical outcomes. Can I reduce the transfer rate by offering this to outside providers? Can I reduce the amount of time spent in the ED by a patient by having these videos available? So actual clinical outcomes that matter to patients rather than just post-repair confidence scores on cadavers. I want to thank Noah Orfield, who's my research assistant, who helped on this project, and Yaz, who's our medical student, who's over there. Thank you very much. I want to thank Hugh Hagan, my senior partner, who couldn't be here tonight, Dr. Keel, who's here, Joe Moscow, my chairman, who's been very supportive of our research efforts, and Emma Hudson and Dr. McNamara from the Anatomy Lab for their collaboration as well. Thank you very much.
We do have, oh sure, wrap up the discomforting videos with the cute dog.
That's not my dog.
Oh, he's adorable. But
thank you,
we do have a few minutes for questions. If anybody has any questions for Dr. Apel.
Sir.
Hi, I'm a medical student, and I was wondering, you mentioned how on YouTube, the videos are ranked by presumably how many people are clicking on them. Mm-hmm. And yours would probably get clicked on a lot because it's the shortest. But I was wondering how you're going to offer this, whether it's going to be on YouTube or put it on UpToDate or something like that, so that people go there as kind of a reliable. They know it's a reliable resource.
Yeah, so we have a Croydon Clinic Department of Orthopedics Education YouTube channel created and managed through our institution. It's got some professional education and some patient education on it. But our plan is to use the medium that are already available to people, which is YouTube, and that's the reality of it. Unfortunately, anything that's behind a wall, whether it's ViewMedi or UpToDate, it's a barrier. And if you're trying to reach the boots on the ground, so to speak, there can't be barriers. And so our intent is to use YouTube. Sir?
How about figuring out the follow-up, like, when are they followed up? Do you need an antibiotic because it's an open fracture, those kind of issues? Is that going to be a new video?
Yeah, we've talked about for when we make it for actual clinical implementation, elongating it ever so slightly just to have some of that aftercare questions that you ask like that to round out the clinical applicability of it. Yes, sir.
I'm just wondering, have you considered networking with your colleagues at a couple of sister institutions to kind of build the study to a larger size?
We have, yeah. Or we just have to keep waiting for more interns to come in. So, yes, that is one of the next stages as well.
Else?
Yes, sir.
Do you know what the viewer's behavior was for taking a 1-minute video over 2 minutes? Did they pause? Did they watch it twice? Do you know?
We actually have, we're waiting to do our additional analysis because we actually watch the video, but we haven't done all that analysis quite yet, but we'll have it when we round out the study about what they actually did.
So could it be too short?
I don't know, and that's another great question: is what length is the appropriate length?
Right.
You know, we chose 60 seconds because it's the longest Snapchat video, and I guess if Snapchat thinks that's the right length, then we should do it. But that's the longest Snapchat video, and in the social media sphere, people have studied what length of video is most likely to get you clicks, and so. 28 seconds is your best video for Twitter, and 2.5 minutes is your best for YouTube. So we chose to go in between there when we chose 60 seconds for our video based on what we think people are doing and looking for. I can't do it in 28 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't think I can.
I guess just to follow up from that, from your data on the 60-second, was there a specific area in those 1 through 8 that can help you illustrate maybe that area of the video itself needs tweaking because the learners,
missed that part of it?
Missed that part.
We'd have to, that'd be a great thing to look at also.
Sure.
And we have all the scores.
Sure.
So. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much.